You're listening to another episode of the Anna Vivo podcast. Thank you for your time.
Maker to match my makers and never match me.
What a great song, Steven. Oh, yeah. We're leading with that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Anna Vivo podcast. I'm your host, Tim C. Miller of AnnaVivo.com, ANAVIVO.com. Also on YouTube, spelled out, Anna Vivo, DOTCOM.com, and basically wherever you want to listen. We've got a YouTube channel, we've got a Spotify, Apple playlists, Google. Just Google the word Anna Vivo and you'll find all of our shows. I'm joined today on the air with my kid brother and host, Sizzly Steve.
What'd it do?
Who was just singing Matchmaker, Matchmaker. Why was that song on your mind, I wonder, single Sizzly Steve?
Yeah, but you didn't even notice the tune I was singing it in.
Matchmaker. Weren't you not singing it in that?
That's not the way.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not. That's from Sound of Music.
Matchmaker, Matchmaker.
No.
Yeah, right.
No.
Is that not
I think those are two different songs. Matchmaker is from Fiddler on the Roof, and that other tune, melody, is from Sound of Music, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know what I was doing there.
I'm pretty sure that's the same.
No.
Great.
We
Now
have
we've
to
got to listen
figure
to
this out now.
Great. That's going to be on my mind. So you're saying the tune is from Sound of Music, but the lyrics were Fiddler on the Roof?
Who knows? Let's find out.
It sounds like it's the same one. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Dun, dun, dun.
I didn't ask you. Michael, you're the oldest. They have to make a match for you before they can make one for me.
Here we go.
After her, one for me. So again.
This is Fiddler on the Roof.
Somebody has to arrange the matches. She might bring someone wonderful, someone interesting, and well off.
And well off.
Matchmaker,
Make me a match. Oh, interesting.
Find me a find, catch me a catch.
Anyways, that's probably copyrighted, right?
Matchmaker, look through.
So,
We're allowed to get 10 seconds of that.
what's the Sound of Music song then?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I didn't know that melody. You were talking about I enjoy matchmaking.
So you were singing that for what reason? Because you're single?
Because you said you enjoy matchmaking.
Oh, okay.
And then you happened to record right after you said that.
Oh, we were talking about recruiting as a job and how I enjoy matchmaking. Yes, okay. And
wow,
then you were singing
that was literally
song.
10 seconds ago. I don't know how you forgot that.
It seemed to me that you were singing that out of some sort of longing of your soul.
Matchmaker.
But maybe you weren't. Maybe there's no hidden message there. Okay.
Find me a match.
Interesting. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We are going to be discussing in today's episode a few different topics. One, specifically the future of work in the age of automation, but then also how that relates to our pursuit of hobbies and leisure time, and sort of some philosophical thoughts about that, but also bring it home and personal to both Steve and I, and hopefully to you. So why don't we kick this off with where you thought we were going with the age of automation?
Yeah, how do you think that you can upskill? Just kidding. Well, I, as you know, have a lot of free time, grotesque amount of free time. And with
As
that,
we've discussed in a previous episode, a grotesquely amount of your time.
I enjoy doing those gig economy jobs to
Okay.
get some play money
Yeah.
on the side, like DoorDash and Rover. And you meet a lot of new people doing that. And specifically, I've been noticing I'm meeting a lot of people that work from home.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense that your door dashing would be bringing food to people who are not wanting to leave their homes or just don't because they work from home.
Well, it's not like, it's more Rover, I'm finding. Because DoorDash, it's not like they tell you what they do. I might be meeting the spouse.
Oh, right. I guess you're just dropping food.
Yeah,
But
that's very prejudiced of you. But when
well, that's
Rover,
interesting that Rover, a dog sitting, that they would be wanting you if they work from home. That doesn't compute.
I always have to like set up a meeting to meet them for the first time. And every time it's like, come over anytime I work from home. So,
Oh, I see. So they're hiring you because they're
away.
actually leaving their home.
Yes, but
Yeah.
I find out a lot more about Rover clients.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah. But you're right. DoorDash is all day, every day. And I do deliver to food to couples that I'm like, the whole family's here. And it's,
And it's a Tuesday
yeah,
morning.
at 9 a.m. or something.
Yeah. Interesting. So we've seen a lot of that. We're both young, sprightly sprouts, and there's been a lot of change just in our lifetime in the information age in terms of automation and how that has worked its way into the workforce. I mean, we could go back to the dawn of time and see how automation has always, typically, always increased the efficiency of work and even the byproduct of that making your life better in terms of quality. I mean, that could be debatable, but I'm thinking a good example would be the mixer. Previous to that, you're hand mixing. Now you've got automation you've got a mixer, and so that's the next newest gadget in your kitchen. And so it gives you some free time or allows you to do more or things like that. And there's pros and cons to all of this, but we've certainly seen a boom in our industry with that. And now even with AI as a commonplace thing to folks here in the U.S. and even around the world in terms of ChatGPT, Google Bard, and other like instances of just searching out the internet and giving us answers. A lot of apps have integrated systems like that through proprietary software, such as Snapchat or Instagram, TikTok, and things like that use an AI chat-like friend. So I guess my question for the audience or for you, Steve, is how you see this in the future working its way out. One, in terms of our workplace and what that means for jobs in an economy, but two, just like cool stuff, the cool factor of that isn't just, we talk a lot about the doom and gloom of like, you're going to lose your job if you don't stay relevant, which is true. There may be some truth to that, but what's the cool side of this?
That we can upskill and reskill. Just kidding. We have this dorky script going.
Got some really great scripted. How to stay relevant 101.
Yeah. Well, AI, it's funny you talk about AI because there are future, case uses that can help us do things. For example, it can do complex movements faster and quicker than any human can do. It can fly
like rockets,
re-land rockets for us,
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff, which is really, really useful. But the creator of ChatGPT carries around a backpack everywhere he goes with a kill switch to his servers.
Really?
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
If anything goes wrong, he's totally worried about it. So he carries around a kill switch to his AI. Yeah. But I think automation, just like you were saying, the mixer or even the car, people used to work, within walking distance of their house. And then they used to work within riding distance of their house.
Right.
And now they can work within driving or even flying distance of their house.
Or within their house.
Yeah, and now it's like I can work
in your house.
Yeah. I've upskilled and reskilled so good I'm working from home. So I think although when the car is invented, you now can travel 50 miles for work.
Yeah.
And it allows you to work at a million different jobs and locations as opposed to just the general store.
Yeah.
Down the street. But it also means they can expect you to drive 50 miles, or they can expect you to do this, or now because you have a mixer, they can expect you to
Bake 5 loaves instead of the one.
do
or
all this
whatever.
extra work.
Yeah.
Or, rent has gone up, everything's gone up
Yeah.
appropriately.
Right.
So it's like just as hard, I would say, even with automation, because as they give us things that make life easier, they pile on more stuff for us to do because they
Right.
know we can handle it.
There's an interesting article that I was just reading about that very thing. Ironically, that you bring that up.
Upskilling and reskilling.
No, about the higher expectations of the corporations that are hiring you for that kind of stuff, and how prior to the Industrial Revolution, the rest of the world, you would go to work a few hours a day, and you'd work in or you'd work, in some agricultural kind of thing, rice paddies, or as a serf for a lord, or tending to flocks or whatever it is. But your expectation was to do a certain amount of hours a day and then go back to your family, and that's where you would spend most of your work, is working on your own home, building your stuff, working on your own farm, growing your own stuff, or whatever it is. And then the Industrial Revolution happened, and people said, "Wow, this is amazing. Let's automate a lot of this stuff. Let's get more people in the factories." And then it really turned a corner for evil, I think, and so did this article, when the feminist movement came about post-Industrial Revolution. And it, on the surface, there was this guys behind it like, let's get everybody equal opportunity. Let's do this. And it sounds like equality. It sounds like equitableness and value in value, equitableness in value. But really what was going on behind the scenes was the government was saying, absolutely, you're telling me I can get both adults in the workplace, which means my productivity goes up, which means my taxes literally double. And how do governments make money? How do kingdoms make money? The taxes that they get from their population, right? And so if only one half, 50% of their population is working, they're only getting 50% taxes. But now 100% of their population is working, and so they can get taxes both ways. And so that's an incredible eye opener that I hadn't thought about prior to reading this article. And so, so they've got now the dad and the mom in the workplace, and creating jobs as a side effect by putting kids in longer school hours, factory-like school hours, and or pre or post school programs, which creates more jobs for people to come watch these kids, and allows the government more control of what they can teach the kids or how they can influence them, et cetera, et cetera. And so now we've got this expectation. Now in our age, fast forward 100 years, fast forward 200 years, and it's an expectation that both parents are working, that we are a dual income family, and even in that we can barely afford to live. And yet you look back, not that long ago, and single income families could afford your house and your car and your food and vacation. And now the expectation is that both of you should be working, and your kids should be cared for primarily by the public school system and daycares, and raised by them and influenced by them. And a third or a quarter of your paycheck should go towards taxes in some form or another, either actual taxes withheld as a W-2, or through taxing by purchases and sales tax or property tax or whatever that looks like in your state. And so it's become this cultural norm now that we just kind of roll over and take, which is really probably has our forefathers turning in their graves, from throwing tea in the harbor, from being taxed just barely compared to what we are today. And so it's sad, but it's also eye-opening to realize that automation has given those in power the ability to say, oh, great, yeah, like you said, you've got the mixer now. Now I expect you to make 5 loaves instead of 1. And oh, by the way, both of you should be doing that. And let's increase our productivity and output, and also revenue yield through taxes. So, yeah. So what's the upside to any of this, Steve?
Well, as long as you're constantly upskilling and reskilling. Yeah.
is there an upside? Is there anything cool coming around?
I mean, automation.
Tech-wise, automation-wise, on a horizon, is there an escape from this? Are our kids subjected to this? Is there...
Well, history repeats itself. And if you look at the first use case of automation,
the very first one.
Okay. It was the brick. And so they said, hey, we
Continue.
discovered how to make a brick. We can make a bunch of these all at once, and everybody can make these. Boom. All of a sudden, we have a ton of bricks all at once, as opposed to
hand
one
making.
at a time.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
One person,
like using a mold.
Exactly. One person can make a whole set of bricks, and then all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of bricks. And so they're automating buildings, structures, and the Tower of Babel and pyramids and everything else. And so you have this automation of the building materials.
He just air quoted for those listening.
Yes.
Not watching.
You can hear my air quotes. Of these building materials that may have been used for evil purposes by the people in power. Hey, I want a monument to show how great I am, or I want to build a staircase to the heavens and be taller than God,
right,
or whatever. But it's also creating these magnificent things that are really cool and push mankind forward.
Yeah.
I'm watching For All Mankind.
Ooh, For All Mankind
on Apple TV, and so it's all about pushing mankind forward. It's a space show. And so I think that automation does push us forward, and it will progress humankind as a whole at the sacrifice of the people living through it. Because all those people building the pyramids were slaves.
Sure.
And all those people building the Tower of Babel were probably slaves.
So the plus side of this is the ancestors looking back are benefiting from the backs and labor of our... We are benefiting from the labor of the
They
people.
have Tesla Roadsters now, as opposed to the horse and buggy.
Right. And so our legacy, our children, our prodigy will benefit from our labor and suffering. Okay, I see. So we ourselves will never really realize the benefit in our own lifetimes. I mean, there may be few examples or instances of that where you get the mixer that first time for Christmas, and that first couple of years, it's amazing before the corporations realize, hey, we can be using this in our factories.
Yeah.
So there may be some periods where you realize some benefit.
Well, exactly. So it's like, I think what pushes it is money, obviously. And who's got money is big corporations or big people with big pockets or government agencies. And usually it's for some selfish purpose or something. But it brings about innovation and technology.
Yeah.
And so, we might find some use case out of it. But, the people working in the factories they wanted the money.
Mm-hmm. They needed the money. And so they did it. They could have left the city and gone out and, started a farm or something or whatever. But I think they said, this is good. Everyone else is doing it. And, but they're dying. People are dying. They're losing their arms. Right.
But the Europeans are getting cheap shirts.
Well, and this will go into a little bit later topic, but that work-life balance where even today, you and I could very well go into the Midwest and get some land for a lot cheaper than here and start our own farm and live sustainably off the land or, anywhere in the world almost and do that kind of stuff. But then what is the other trade-off for that? And so it's worth it to me to risk losing an arm in a factory line because I get all these other X, Y, and Z benefits of the city life versus not losing my arm potentially in the farm, but then having to do
toughing it
out and being alone or whatever the pros and cons. So we all draw those lines somewhere for ourselves and our families, which is an interesting concept to think about the framework of our life and who determines that. If you're a believer, a Christ follower, you have a pretty set framework and what you should be about doing and what our pursuit should be and our left and rights. If you don't have that framework, or it's another either religious or moral or ethical framework that you put on yourself or we put on ourselves as humans, that's kind of what we follow. We believe in X, Y, and Z because that's what we believe in, and so we then structure our life around those beliefs, either intentionally or not intentionally. But so with this automation, in terms of staying relevant for our listeners, there's a lot of listeners here on the show that are still in the workforce. And they may not want to be in the workforce, so they may be retiring soon. They may be in a job that they're ready to move from. As with all jobs, networking is huge, keeping your LinkedIn profile relevant in some cases, getting to know people, staying relevant in terms of your skills, and making sure that you are an essential personnel so that you're not being taken over by a machine. I mean, all of those are sort of obvious kinds of things, but in terms of just really cool tech that can help our life in our career and or some new stuff coming up on the horizon in the AI world or in the automation world, what do you think our children have to look forward to, or we can even look forward to, or where do you want to take that from here?
Wireless telephones. I think our kids are going to have wireless telephones, portable music players.
That's not true. There's no way. That'll never happen.
I think one day people are going to be able to sit in one city on one side of the world and send a message to someone else on the other side of the world.
Yeah, mail. It's called the mail.
But electronically.
No way.
Yeah, I bet instantly.
I bet.
Bet.
You say. Interesting.
That's a good question. I think one day in the future, I mean, you've seen the videos for Tesla's robot.
Yeah.
So, iRobot. I think one day there's going to be some sort of Roomba vacuum cleaner.
iRoomba.
That is going over to your refrigerator and, pulling out a drink for you and doing this and answering the door for you and checking the mail for you.
Jarvis.
Yeah. Doing all that stuff for you, checking your email. So I think that's not too far off.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, at Compass Real Estate here, we just finished upgrading, installing, and modifying a portion of ChatGPT into the Compass platform. And so on the agent side, our agents can use that bot to write and draft listings for themselves, marketing remarks, automations, emails, those kinds of things. On the client side, they can use that bot as almost as a little AI assistant on the website, but more so than just answering kind of generic questions. They can use the bot to put in searches for themselves. So instead of me, as when I was an agent, going back and saying, hey, what do you want? You want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home? Okay, let's make a search in this area. They can do that themselves. It's one step above or maybe 2 steps above what they can do in Zillow. In Zillow, they're still doing that themselves. They're still saying, okay, I want the search criteria to be this. Well, in the compass.com website, the search, they start that way, but then the AI begins to refine it the more and more they use the platform. And so it keeps people on the platform because it gets better and better as it learns more about you and your needs and desires and what you stay on, house-wise or area-wise or things like that. But then it also notifies you for those things really quickly. And it notifies us on the agent side, like, hey, this one just popped up. It matched your client's thing. And so then through collaboration, myself and the client can both say, hey, we just found that, let's go look at it or whatever. Then the boots on ground portion can happen that the AI can't yet do. So there's some cool aspects to that, but there's also a lot of fear. I'm actually shocked at how many agents, not necessarily older agents, just agents in general, that have seriously asked the question, like, is this taking away from my value? Is this detracting from what I offer, or being able to articulate their commission or justify their commission? And they're saying, oh my gosh, how do I just, and it's like, dude, if you can't justify or articulate your own commission, guess what? You are irrelevant. You should not be charging that commission.
Yeah.
So you either need to figure that out quickly or decrease your commission. And that's the beauty, I think, of efficiency. And one of the values at Compass is it's sort of the Uber of real estate, in that I, as a client, am able to see transparently what my agent is doing and be able to justify that paycheck versus, where I was at previous typical franchises where it's like, yeah, I hold the keys to the kingdom. You have to come through me, and it's like, that just felt almost scammy. So there's some pluses, some pros and cons to that model, which is neat.
Yeah.
So
Helps you upscale and rescale.
you're on that that script for our podcast here. I want to talk about transitioning this conversation into the positive side. Now that, I think we have to understand and value automation through a mindset of abundance, not a mindset of scarcity. If we have that mindset of scarcity, we automatically result or react in fear and say, oh my gosh, it's taking over my job. What do I do? I can't justify this, whatever. If we have a mindset of abundance, we say, great, awesome. How do I use this? How do I make my own job better, my own self better, my own justification of things better? And so one of the ways we can do that is through our work-life balance and through this idea of leisure and hobbies. And so I liken it to the cycle of generations where our fathers worked their butts off to provide everything they could for us so that we would have a great life. And then we grew up, not you and me specifically, but just, the next generation grew up and they had everything because their fathers worked their butt off for it. So they said, oh, wonderful. Now I don't have to work as hard. I'm going to go pursue art or whatever, some hobby, insert hobby here. And then their kids grew up not having enough because their fathers were pursuing hobbies. So now they're back to the working hard thing, and it's a cycle that repeats itself. And so, one, we have to have balance in it, but where do we draw the line? What does that look like? What are some benefits of that here in America versus other countries? And we can even have that debt conversation here too. I mean, what is there's pros and cons to all of this.
Yeah, well, generational wealth takes you somewhere.
Only so far.
No, it doesn't. I mean, there's so many.
I mean, if you manage it well, I guess, yeah. If you keep it and manage it well.
Yeah, there's so many trust fund kids out there. But living in a capitalist society allows you to transfer wealth from generation to generation, whereas like a communist society, I don't know if they would let you do that. I don't know how that works. Or North Korea, good luck there.
Good luck for all of our listeners from North Korea.
Yeah. But I think living in America where we can accrue wealth and we can accrue debt does change what we can do with our lives and our time, especially it changes how much time we have, what we can do. Because if you have money or debt, you can go to the grocery store instead of having to, farm it yourself.
Right. You can borrow against somebody else to buy that food that you need today to then pay that off later.
Yeah, even if it means going to jail and then they feed you there anyways. So.
That's true.
It is, yeah.
The quality of a country is determined by the quality of your prison system.
Yeah. So, I mean, we live in a place where we can accrue wealth and we can accrue debt, but in a place where you can't do that, you also have certain freedoms, air quote, meaning there's no police officer that's going to stop you from stealing your neighbor's food or doing, pretty much whatever you want because it's probably that bad to where you can, I don't know, but in America at least, although you can accrue debt to help yourself out or you can transition generational wealth, we also can't do whatever we want in society because we have rules in here and we're totally subservient to the government's rules.
So the pros and cons of a capitalistic versus a true republic or a communist or
Like Russia, you can feel free to hack Americans and steal all their money if you want. Russia's not going to care. If we were to do that here in America, the FBI would come knock on our door and says, "Are you hacking right now?
I see what
We're
you're
going to
saying.
seize all your assets."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we had this was a hot tub discussion we had a few months back, where it was really looking through the lens of two different environments. One being you have no debt in your life, but you have a low quality of life, but you're debt free, right? But you have a low quality of life. The other lens being you have copious amounts of debt, but a high quality of life. So what is it? What's the trade-off? What is it worth to you, listener, in terms of what you would rather have? And two good examples of that. Okay, you've got the Chinese society, no debt, cash society, social credit society. You can't buy a house necessarily. I mean, there's nuances to this, but you've got to use cash to buy the house. And so they'll have multiple family members pool their funds together, buy a generational house. And they won't be in debt, but they also don't each individually own their own property, or, able to have all of these, quote, toys, or shop on Amazon at late hours of the night with debt. And so or travel 4 times a year to different places. It's a cash-based, highly cash-based society. And, but you get outside of the city. So that works okay in the cities, in Beijing. You get outside of the cities and people are in massive amounts of poverty, not debt, but poverty. And it's sad, really. But at the same time, it can be sad here in America. People are in copious amounts of debt, like literally, not corrupted by, but like held hostage by the amounts of looming debt over our heads. And for some people, that can take a massive mental toll on them and affect their quality of life. But if it doesn't bother you mentally, you can get away with it because you can pay the minimum off, $200, $300 off on a $20,000 credit card line of debt every month and have $20,000 worth of stuff and have a higher quality of life, or at least more things. And everybody has a car or a smartphone or a house or, food on the table or whatever. There's even in the rural areas, they're not in massive amounts of poverty. You have to be in poverty by choice almost in a place like America. So what would you rather have? Would you rather be born in America where you can have that higher quality of life, but also do so by copious amounts of debt? Or would you rather be in a cash society and not be in debt, but not have that quality of life? And that was kind of the basis of the conversation. I like the idea in America where you can choose still to be cash and not be in debt, but also give up some things. So it's sort of a choose your own adventure thing.
Yeah,
but
flip
not
to page 42 and you can go
Yeah.
no cards.
No cards and just debit card. But not many people do that. So
Yeah, you can just pull out a $500,000 line of debt on yourself, and all of a sudden you have a $500,000 house that you're living in, as opposed to
Right.
saving up for the rest of your life.
or your parents' life and giving it to you as a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. How can you upskill and reskill that?
Yeah. So within that, the pursuit of hobbies, then it becomes more of an existential question in terms of why are you pursuing those hobbies? Is it because you truly have the freedom to do that because you have such a high paying job and or such a great work-life balance that you've got a lot of time to pursue these hobbies? Or is it an escapism? Is it a form of escapism from the reality of your work and the sin of work and the burden that is? And so you're pursuing the hobby as a means to escape. That's what I'm always more curious. I know that's probably a lot deeper than what we wanted to go on the topic here in terms of what hobbies do you have, but why the hobbies, not the what the hobbies. That's what I like to look at. So for me, it's a combination of both. We travel a lot, and a lot of that is for escapism. I don't want to be stuck on an island a lot of the times in my head, even though it's wonderful and there's a bridge and 2 ferries and you're not really stuck ever. But I feel like it can be claustrophobic. And so traveling gets me out of that responsibility, out of the responsibility of work. It gets me to see new cultures and new places and bring my family with me to experience those things. And so there's good parts of that, but for a long time it used to be a high form of escapism, probably similar to what people would do on video games or other means of hobbies like that. But at the same time, I really enjoy watercolor painting or pastels or doing something like that that's just true creating. And that's a hobby that is joyful for me. And I don't use it as a form of escape. I use it just because I like to create. And I think there's a place for that in all of our lives, in whatever that looks like. Or podcasting. I like to create. So creating these episodes and curating them in a way. How about you, Sizzly Steve?
I also enjoy media entertainment, movies and video games, but my favorite entertainment and hobby is audiobooks because they
transcend and take you places.
They are great for while you're driving or doing something because it's better than music because you're learning something or you're going on an adventure. And, every time you go somewhere, you're never going to finish the book, in one trip. So you're always at a cliffhanger. You're looking forward to the next time you're doing a tedious task, like driving or whatever. And so it makes those tedious tasks really fun and enjoyable for me. So that is exciting to me. But I also enjoy thinking about creating things. I'm not a video game designer, but I'm always thinking about this would make a great video game or this would make a great website. Not that I'm ever good at it or have the money to pay someone to do that.
So I want to break the hobbies into two categories as an analyst. I want to break them into the consumer hobby. So that would be like your binge watching, your book reading, my traveling, consuming things. And I want to break it from consumer and creativity. So creative. So what are you described for us the consumer? You mentioned a little bit the creative. You want to think about creating video games and or websites. What do you actually create as a hobby, or what have you created as a hobby that you really enjoyed in the past?
I used to play a game called RuneScape.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, really fun.
OG.
A medieval game with knights and swords and goblins, but you can program against the rules of the game scripts that would make your character play the game for itself.
Oh,
and so I used to stay up till the crack of dawn in middle school and high school programming these scripts so that my character would play the game while I slept.
Like basic HTML code scripting?
Java, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So
creating things that would take on the menial tasks so that while you went to school, your character was still logging hours.
Hard at work, working.
Yeah.
Automated. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, was there any other part of this topic that we wanted to flesh out before we let our audience off the hook for the day?
I think we've reskilled it to the max. So
I would be curious to hear from you, dear audience, on some of your favorite hobbies and why, more importantly, the why. And I would be curious to hear from you how you are using your career and what that looks like, or your spouse's career, your family career, to accomplish a mission, whatever that mission looks like to you? And I ask that question because I'm surrounded in a world by real estate agents. And as a managing broker, I get to sit back a little bit and look at the contract side of things, but I get to see a lot of the more motivation behind their whys. And astonishingly or sadly, they don't seem to know or care. And they, when I've asked somebody point blank, hey, why do you need this much? Why are you showing this extra house? Why are you going this far to drive to show a property versus staying within this region? Why are you doing one more transaction this year? The inevitable answer is always just one more. Because it's a lead, because I need to do one more. And they don't have a firm grip on why, whether that's a financial why, like, hey, my bills are, this amount and I need to do this one more, or whether that's a purpose why of, because I need to stay relevant. It fulfills me. I feel helpful. Whatever that is, I don't ever get or rarely get a clear or concise answer. So for my listeners that are in the real estate world, I'd be curious to know why you are doing the amount that you're doing or why not. For those that are not in the real estate world, I also want to know why, because it's something I spend time thinking about in terms of we're devoting our whole lives to this job. We're sitting here from 9 to 5 every day, or from this time to this time, 5 days a week, or 4 days a week, or 10 days a week, 10 days, a lot, your whole time. and we're cranking out these hours to reach this Americanism, where we've been told that retirement happens in this, the game of life. You can retire to your cottage on one side or your country club on the other with your white picket fence. And then you get to supposedly sit back on your haunches. But we're older. Everything hurts more. Things cost more. Things aren't relevant anymore. The things that were important to us in our youth are no longer important. Things have changed. And so we miss out a lot on this life by putting our heads down and just cranking through. And so I want to know the why. I want to hear your why. I want to hear the importance for you for doing X, Y, or Z. And even if that's a scriptural thing, like for me, I want to hear that motivation. And that helps me not only be able to articulate to myself, most importantly, and justify my own existence, but also to others, and then get a little bit of that feedback here on the air. So, and that I think is a good place to wrap up. If there's ever an opportunity for one of you to come on the air, we would love to have you. We can call in on the air from wherever you are in the world. We can also have you come to the studio if you are local to beautiful Whidbey Island, Washington. So, Stephen.
Yes.
Anything you want to end on?
I think that as long as you stay relevant and upskill, then anything can surpass innovation of anything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well said, scripted. Are you just an AI? Have I been talking to an AI this whole time?
Beep boop.
Well, as my kids would say.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Anna Vivo podcast. We welcome your feedback and ideas. You can learn more about us by simply Googling the word Anna Vivo. This podcast is supported by listeners like you. I am a licensed real estate broker with Compass Real Estate and a nationwide real estate matchmaker. We consult with you for free, find and vet the right real estate professional that specializes in the area and niche you need, are paid by that professional, and they get clients like yourself who want and need their unique specialty or winning track record. If you or someone you know is in the market to buy or sell real estate anywhere in the U.S., don't simply web search the highest paying advertiser. Let us use our licensed experience to find and vet the real and best professional for you. It costs you nothing but a phone call or email with me, and has saved my clients financially and emotionally. I'd be honored to serve, and you can reach me direct by email at tim.c.miller@outlook.com. And as always, to God be the glory.